Welcome, everybody. Hello, good afternoon. For the record, my name is Gabriela Coleta Zapata, District 1 City Councilor, and I'm the chair of the Boston City Council Committee on Government Operations. Today is October 24th, 2024. This hearing is being recorded. It is also being live streamed at boston.gov/city-council-tv and broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, and Fios Channel 964. Written comments may be sent to the committee email at ccc.go@boston.gov and will be made a part of the record and available to all councilors. Public testimony will be taken at the end of this hearing. Individuals will be called on in the order in which they signed up and will have 2 minutes to testify. If you are interested in testifying in person, please add your name to the sign-up sheet near the entrance of the chamber. If you are looking to testify virtually, please email our Central Staff Liaison, Megan Kavanaugh, at Megan, MEGHAN, Kavanaugh, KAVANAGH. I can do that by memory now, Megan, at boston.gov for the link, and your name will be added to the list. Today's hearing is on Docket 1199, an ordinance codifying the Department of Innovation and Technology. The matter was sponsored by Councilors Brian Worrell, Tanya Fernandez-Anderson, and Julia Mejia, and was referred to the committee on August 7th, 2024. Today, I am joined by my colleagues in order of arrival: Councilor Liz Brereton, Council President Ruth C. Louis-Jean, and lead sponsor, Councilor Brian Worrell. I'll go to Brian for his opening remarks before I hand it over to the panel, and then I'll go to Liz and then Ruth C. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, for hosting this hearing. I'd like to first extend my gratitude to Chief Santiago for his astounding leadership in advancing Boston's technological capabilities and improving how our city utilizes data. Your work, Chief, on initiatives like upgrading Boston's cybersecurity framework and enhancing digital infrastructure has been crucial to ensure a more efficient and secure city. And I know you can't do that without a great team, so I just want to extend that thank you to the entire DoIT team. I also like to thank our panelists on the next panel, CIOs from Pittsburgh, South Bend, and Cambridge for joining us today. Your expertise and willingness to share your city-specific data governance models will make this hearing incredibly educational. We are eager to learn about how technology can be leveraged to support innovation, equity, and community responsiveness. As we move forward with this ordinance, I want to emphasize that data is not just about numbers, it's about shaping Boston's future. Data guides change, informs policy, and ensures we meet the evolving needs of our residents. This ordinance codifies the Department of Innovation and Technology's role, making sure we are ready for the challenges tomorrow. I'm looking forward to hearing of your experiences and taking any feedback on the current ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Worrell. Councilor Liz Brereton.
Chair, thank you all for being here this afternoon. I will keep my comments brief. I think this is past time to codify the DoIT department and DoIT. That's too much. That's redundancy there. But thank you. And our digital infrastructure is critically important to the good management of our city, and improved data systems is really critical as well. So I look forward to the conversation this afternoon, and also look forward to hearing from other municipalities across the country about what they're doing. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor Brereton. Council President Louis-Jean.
Thank you to the lead sponsor and the co-sponsors for bringing this matter before the City Council. Codification of the departments that do the important work here in our city are just necessary so that we have the right governing structure, but also to think about what it looks like when we codify. How are we making things easier or cleaner for folks to understand that who is responsible for what work. And so I want to thank DoIT because we're often relying on you to make the tech part of this city really work. And so thank you again to the sponsors and to you all for being here, and to my colleagues as well for our collective commitment here to digital equity and to digital access. So thank you, everyone. I look forward to the hearing.
Thank you, Council President Louis-Jean. We've been joined by Councilor Flynn. Councilor Flynn, if you have any opening remarks, please feel free.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the DoIT team for the work that you are doing, digital equity in ensuring residents across the city have access to working internet is critical, but also the DoIT team providing residents with the best IT support so we're able to effectively deliver city services to everybody. Want to say thank you to the DoIT team, and a special thank you to Kerry for the professional work that you've done, not only at DoIT, but as a city employee for so many years. Thank you, Kerry.
Yes, shout out to Carrie, who is a friend to many of us. I've known you for a while, and grateful for the work you did in the City Council. I do want to just introduce the panel very quickly. We have Santiago Garces, Chief of Information Officer from the Department of Innovation and Technology, Carrie Jordan, who's now the Chief of Staff, and Alejandro Jimenez Yaramillo, who is the Director of Governance and Policy. I do just want to reiterate my thanks to all of you. Boston is a hub of innovation, and so it's essential that our internal processes reflect the 21st century world that we're living in. And I want to thank you all for your deep partnership on many different issues. I am so grateful that we worked together to create the mattress reservation program, which took 3 months and has highlighted some things that we need to get right, like the address lineup within the GIS system, and will help make CoBucks run better and just help with getting information out to the public. So really grateful for that. I also want to shout out my council colleagues, Councilor Braden and Councilor Flynn, for working with me on a hearing order that we had talking about the technological infrastructure improvements in the city of Boston. During that hearing, we kind of alluded to the necessity of something like this, and I want to thank Councilor Worrell and others for their leadership in producing it, and I know working with you to make it a reality. There's almost like this federated model where DoIT is an entity, and there are different technological factions within city departments, although in a moment of crisis, what is your authority to go in there and make sure things are safe and or, paying for things and procurement opportunities. So I'm really grateful for this conversation. I will pass the floor over to you to introduce yourself. I know that you have a presentation. I just want to call attention to that in my colleagues' inboxes, make sure that you have it, but if not, it's up on the screen. And I will pass it over to you at your discretion on who wants to go first. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Council. I'm Santiago Garces. I'm the Chief Information Officer for the city. And I will join again by my brilliant colleagues, and we also have some friends from the department that are in the audience. So when we received the invitation for the hearing, we kind of tried to be able to describe what is at stake, what are the things that tend to not work, and we know that this is true right now in a number of cases because we haven't done a concerted effort in being intentional in coordinating how we do technology across the city. When we are inconsistent around the standards for technical procurement, we end up having inconsistent experiences. So you might go to one department and the service looks great, you can do something online, and then there's another step that you have to do in paper, and that can be frustrating and not as well designed. Sometimes we find that a department that hasn't been working with us might not have some of the same visibility into what the vendors are providing, might have less support around understanding how to maintain the technologies, and by the time that people reach out, it's a little too late. We're in a state of crisis. We know that when we don't have coordination and visibility, that we have opaque financing in technology. We end up having redundant purchases, so we buy multiple versions of the same thing. Usually when it comes to technology licensing, we end up benefiting from economies of scale. And we have limited amount of money that we can put towards serving our residents. So we don't do this in an efficient way. We end up paying more than what we could have. And it makes it hard for us to be able to do these multi-year plans, to be able to know if there's missing pieces that could serve a large number of internal stakeholders. We lose an opportunity if we're not coordinated. We end up with inconsistent application of technology policy. So one group might end up enforcing a privacy policy or a security policy, while another one might not. And that creates inconsistency around our security and our risk profile. It creates inconsistency of the experience for employees and for the public. And again, it just means that it is more likely that sometimes services get disrupted because either we are victims of someone interfering with our operations or because we didn't have the right processes and the right standards. Sometimes we have under-resourced in terms of supporting applications, so sometimes departments feel that they're in a position where they ended up having to make a purchase, but there's no one to support the technology. And important programs that the council has passed and programs that are important to the mayor end up having technology that does not work because no one supports it. And it is unclear about who needs to take responsibility and how is it that we make this work. And we know that the people that end up suffering the consequences of this are the people that would benefit from those programs. And again, we generally have a very fragmented environment for managing technology, and that makes it difficult for us to seize the opportunity to make things better and then to also minimize the risk that we have at hand. But there's a positive side of this. We know that when, well, the first thing is, you guys mentioned, we know that we have a duty to make sure that every Bostonian has the tools to connect not only with government, but with healthcare opportunities, with educational opportunities, with great employment that is enabled through digital access. So we have been able to connect the majority of households, but it is not every household. And some of the people that are experiencing the biggest gaps in terms of being able to connect are the ones that have the most vulnerability, people that are receiving government assistance, people that are returning citizens, veterans, and others end up having a higher proportion of digital gaps than others. We also know that, again, that we want to make sure that there's an opportunity to protect the digital rights of all of our constituents, that we can make sure that people have consistently good experiences, regardless of their gender, regardless of their race, regardless of their disabilities, that we can make them feel in the way that we collect information about them and the way that we design services for them, that we can really create raise the bar for the experience that we can provide. And we know too that whenever we enable digital interactions with government, that it becomes the norm. The majority of people ended up choosing the digital interactions compared to dealing with us in person. So there's a lot of upside there. We know that people tend to prefer to do these digital transactions because they're convenient, they don't have to spend a lot of time, they're efficient, but there's an opportunity to address all these things. So where we are, and just to be clear, these are things that we've been working on over the past 2 years. We're very lucky to have Aleja Jimenez Armillo and the newly formed team of business relationship managers, thanks to the investments from the administration and from the council. And we've been building a lot of capacity in the department. So we're tackling these issues from a programmatic standpoint. We've been convening once a quarter all of the technology leaders from across the city for regular meetings where we go and we learn from each other. We've been increasingly providing support to departments that have come to us and said, hey, we've had this technology for a really long time, but we've never had DoIT. Take a look at this. Could you tell us about, is there a way that we could do this contract better? Is there ways in which we can do things better? So I just want to make sure to emphasize, we are, I think, on an upwards trajectory. This is just things that were kind of the reality for a long time, and it's still true in a lot of cases, but we've been doing a lot of work to try to get out of this. Not having IT governance, again, has made it in the past hard for us to make sure that our employees have the right tools to do their job and to deliver, and that they don't have to worry because their computer's not working or because the software that they need is not available because we didn't get the right license. that we have clarity around technology projects across the city, and that was something that came up in the past that we didn't always coordinate. So a lot of times we're stepping on each other, and then even when we're doing well-intentioned projects, when we don't coordinate, we end up frustrating each other. Again, that making sure that it is clear for people throughout the city how to get the help that they need when they're experiencing a need in terms of technology is important. And ultimately, everything that we're doing is for our end users, both for our constituents and for the employees that work really, really hard, that are stressed. They have a lot of responsibility, and we want to make sure that, again, that they're able to, that we are in a position that we're serving our colleagues who usually have to deal with stressful situations with the public and with others, and we want to make sure that technology, data, that they have all of the tools to make the best decisions, that they have access to the right tools that they can have at their best, they're not frustrated, and they can do the best job that they can. So some thoughts around what are areas where there could be benefits. Again, there's an opportunity of, in this federated world, we think that standards can be a way in which we can kind of raise the floor. And we want to make sure that our standards are clear and easy to follow. It's not about like bureaucratizing and making things complicated, but to make sure that it's easy for people to know how to do the right thing. So we think security standards, so how we manage password complexity, how we manage multi-factor authentication, things like that. Around data, so around how and when do we collect data, when and how do we share data with one another to try to get reduce steps or reduce complexity or increase like our ability to get some insights. Digital standards, so again around accessibility, around one of the things that we've been doing is making a lot of investments in user research. So let's build and buy technology after we know what the users need. What do they value, and kind of what that experience is. Infrastructure, likewise, making sure that we are, that we have consistency in the types of tools that we have, so it makes it easier for us to support one another. That if the schools or the library are experiencing an issue, that we have the ability of aiding them and supporting them, that we are reducing the risks and the difficulties in managing these assets. Again, another area of opportunity is we think that the way that we buy technology and the way that we staff our technology operations are key areas where they can give us the visibility to ensure that we have coordination and we can be proactive. So our goal is to go, I think that there'll be an evolution as we continue to grow our governance program, where initially we're trying to get just visibility. We're just trying to understand what's out there, what are people doing, what are their problems, what are their needs, and then get to the point that we're actually coordinating and being able to even come and say, this is the city's 5-year technology plan. This is what, this is based on the needs and the areas where we've heard from constituents and from our colleagues where they have need. And again, making sure that we have continuity of operations. And we were reminded of this recently with the CrowdStrike outage, international outage caused by third party. But people rely on technology to do their jobs. And like we are reminded that it's not just the city, but every institution, that we're at a point that not having access to reliable, secure technology means that sometimes our institutions stop working the way that we expect them to. So making sure that we're ready for that. Very briefly, just so that kind of the order of dimension makes sense. So again, traditionally, DoIT has provided some services to everyone and then all services to a few. So we connect all, I think it's 367 buildings that the city operates, from BCYF centers to libraries. Now we have the ability, and we've connecting BHA buildings just like in their community, like their common spaces, but we have 367 buildings that we connect. For instance, of those we support the internal network of only about like 65. And we've been working collaboratively with people like the Boston Youth Family Centers to be able to support them, because in the past they had limited support. So we're saying our 7-person network team will go and help support the 30-some facilities that BCYF has, because they need the help. But DoIT in the context of the city is just a small piece of the puzzle. We have technology groups in the Boston Public Schools, in the Boston Public Libraries, in the police department, in the fire department. And we know that there's some teams that don't have a dedicated IT staff, but who don't know who they should go to get support for what they need. So again, it's just getting a sense of, and that's where I think the pieces of the puzzle that DoIT has controlled, and we're under DoIT's jurisdiction, we've had some level of visibility and some level of control. There's really this notion that we should be helping coordinate and govern for all of our sake this, and again, governance not about like directing, but it's about like coordinating and building the relationship and the trust between all these different groups. Because regardless of who you're working with, even with the Water and Sewer Commission, if you're just, we all depend on each other, we're all connected in some ways, and we have an opportunity of delivering better services. So that's the end of our presentation.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I want to be sure to recognize that we have Councilor Mejia here with us, who is a co-sponsor. Councilor Mejia, did you want to offer an opening remark before we go into questions? Or?
No, I think we know exactly where we're going, so I have no opening remarks other than let's just get this done. Thank you.
Gotcha. Okay. I wanted to make sure I asked. All right, let's go to our lead sponsor, Councilor Brian Worrell.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you again, Chief and team. Chief, can you describe to me, like, currently the governance structure, like what's taking place now when it comes to discussing, whether it's purchases, technology decisions for each city department? Are they coming to do it, asking for a sign off? We have a new detail software in Boston Police Department. Is that something that, DoIT is leading, or is BPD leading it? Can you just talk to me currently about just like what is taking place now?
Yeah, so I can give an initial response, and then I'll ask Aleja to complement. So again, as I mentioned, we've been working on building kind of programs, just behavior that kind of shows that we're all in this together and kind of validate. And again, for us, the foundation of our governance program is around trust and value. We don't want to be just another person that just has to check on the requirement. We don't want to slow down things, but we do want to make sure that we're creating value and visibility. So some of the things that we've done since I arrived, we have started this Technology Leadership Council, which is this group of senior technology leaders across the different organizations that have a CIO or an IT director. Aleja coordinates those meetings, and we meet once a quarter. We have the power to oversee. Right now it's configured so that we can oversee review all of the purchase of technology goods, and we're working on trying to improve the quality of like what are we looking for and when do we approve or not. We don't have visibility or an approach right now to do software and kind of professional services, nor staff, which is sometimes comes across. We end up hiring people to do the same thing on two parts of the organization. We have, for instance, with the detail management system, it's interesting because it is actually one of the first times that DoIT is doing, that we're engaging in this new governance framework. So thanks to the investment in our business relationship managers, we had a person in our team, Brian, who's great, and who was able to do a lot of, the problem with technology is often we don't know what we need before, right? Like technology is there to support a process, to operate a process within the context of a regulatory environment. So Brian did a lot of work researching and helping all these different stakeholders map out what are the needs, what are the things. So we recommended kind of an incremental, out of that initial engagement, we recommended an incremental approach around the detail management. So we have been involved with police, with people ops, with procurement, with the mayor's office. This is one where we don't think that we will own this solution, but we have been advising and trying to add value and trying to add coordination and capacity. And it seems to be working the way that we intended to. So it's interesting, again, we didn't have it's not in writing that we have a mandate to do these things, but I think that what we have found, at least the feedback that I've received, is that people have felt that it is valuable. It is valuable precisely because of where we sit in the organization, that we have visibility around all these stakeholders, and they know that we're not going to just try to dominate and impose. It's not a technology issue, it's a process issue, it's a policy issue that has a technology component to it, and then we can help facilitate it.
Yeah, I got a few comments to add on that. So I think in terms of the overall governance structure, it's very much informal at this time. It's very much what we're hearing and how we're hearing. Part of the purpose of the business relationship management practice was meant to create more transparency on what the needs are across City Hall. Shift detail is one example where we were able to say, hey, there's several different departments that touch shift detail, from permitting to obviously public safety, as well as treasury and finance. So having someone who could sort of cross those silos from the DoIT side to understand what the technical operations currently are, what the needs are to stand up a system that is more streamlined, transparent, easier to ensure that constituents have their permits actually staffed, and that we ensure that public safety officials show up. Having someone actually go in to understand across the experience, which is many different departments, what's needed technically to make that possible. To name some of the other departments we're working with right now to better understand either larger needs at department level or cross-department needs. We're working with the Office of the Parking Clerk, Office of Workforce Development, BCYF as well. And really it's about creating clarity for what the current needs are, what the current technology stacks are that DoIT is not touching, so we can better advise on how to get technology needs met. One point I'll double down on, Santi emphasized that this is about coordination, not centralization. DoIT's not designed to meet every possible technological need. We're here to help ensure that if we do have a solution for a given need, that we connect departments to that service. And if not, we coach and try to get that need met either by procurement or their own internal build. And having staff who are actually going out to understand what the business needs are and how that maps onto technology solutions, technology stacks via the BRM program is where I think the main investment that's paid off most acutely, most recently.
Thank you. And then the other question I have is, well, a few more questions. Chief, you talked about inconsistent standards, whether it was, websites, not acting this website standards, technology standards, or even like capacity inside of each department. Has there been a cost analysis to kind of figure out what it would take in order to bring each department up to, I guess, a level of standard that DoIT has, and then also in order for you, right, in order to bring the city up to the level of standard that you're looking to aim and achieve, has there been, what's the cost, or has that process been done?
Yeah, so I don't think that there's like a specific analysis on, again, like the technology areas that we have are diverse, but there's a couple of areas where I think that we could speak more concretely. So for instance, when it comes to the website, we run Boston.gov, which we think is the best government website in the known universe. But in the recent past, we worked with the Boston Public Health Commission to migrate the content from BPHC, which used to have their own website, into Boston.gov. That has some benefits, right? Like first, all of the content becomes searchable within Boston.gov. They don't have to invest, like all of the things that we invest in terms of security, hosting, availability. We get to benefit from all of those pieces of infrastructure without having to pay extra. But there are other departments and agencies that have their own website. So we still have bostonplanning.org, which is the former BPDA. The Boston Police Department has their own website, Boston Public Schools, the Boston Public Library. not necessarily we're saying that it makes sense to move everything to boston.gov, but what we do see is when we bring some of these systems to a shared platform, we make sure that, for instance, we do audits, we do a lot of work to try to make sure that all of the content in boston.gov is at an A grade reading level. We work very hard to make sure that it is accessible in multiple languages. We make sure that it is WCAG accessible, that it complies with all of the accessibility for people that might have visual disabilities, that might have, so those are things that are easier to ensure when we have a shared resource, and then it just becomes, you have to pay some base overhead on terms of the hosting, the security, and some of those programmatic benefits. But again, we see, so we have a patchwork of things, and sometimes it makes sense for people to have different websites and different systems. For us, the part that we see is like, there hasn't necessarily been a mandate for someone to have it be their job to question why do we have multiple, and when should we consolidate to one, and when should we make the exception. And that's where we have felt that that is our role, because it just, if there is no good reason why we should have two of the same things, then let's not have two of the same things. So it just makes it harder to maintain. It's more expensive to maintain.
Right.
And it is worse for the public, because then they have to be navigating between different pages, and it's more confusing for people.
Right. And no cost savings analysis that have been done on if we were to get that right?
No, there's probably like on an anecdotal basis, like there's like solution by solution where we've seen advantages to doing that stuff. I'd have to get back to you about some where I know that we've saved money by consolidating kind of operating in like operation and technology and the same thing. I just want to bring up, because we do operate a consolidated citywide network, this BONET, which connects all of our facilities, we have the ability of recovering costs from the federal government, because our department provides internet connectivity to schools and libraries. So we generate like millions of dollars to the city because we are our internet provider, and that'd be one example. But again, we don't have like a comprehensive cost analysis.
Got it. And then you spoke to the increasing reliance on constituents using our websites and us collecting much more data. Can you talk to us about steps DoIT is doing into making sure that our city and our data is protected against cybersecurity threats, and the growing risk of data breaches, ransomware, and cyber attacks?
Yes. So again, we have a lot of very outstanding people in the department, but one of the core pillars of DoIT is our cybersecurity team, which is led by our Chief Information Security Officer, Greg McCarthy. So we've done a number of things some that we would share more publicly. We've emphasized more around training on security awareness. Like we've increased the frequency with which we do security awareness training citywide to 4 times per year. We used to do it only 1 time per year. We've been coordinated across different teams to make sure that we have the same consistent approach around security awareness. We have expanded the footprint of our identity management system, which, again, a lot of times we're trying to figure out where do we get convenience and security. So the investments in Access Boston, which is our internal security and identity management system, and we were very excited to receive funding from the council and from the administration to support external-facing identity security management. So that's something that is currently under procurement. So you don't have to remember 5 different passwords, one for the permitting system, another one for 3-in-1, another one, just one password and one identity. It helps us protect people, but it also adds convenience. So we know that we're under constant threat, and for us, because we're interconnected, the lowest level of security that we have anywhere in any of our agencies and departments that are connected. That is the biggest threat of risk. And we've done a lot of work to get together, but I think that, again, generally what we've been trying to do on our side is the biggest risk is the assets that we have, like what are the systems that we own, what are the vulnerabilities that they have, and then prioritizing investment in the areas where we know that we have the biggest vulnerabilities. And that's nice.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Worrell. We'll go to Councilor Mejia.
Thank you. I just have, believe it or not, one question. And it has to do with some of the dashboards, particularly like the Office of Police Accountability and Transparency. Just curious about the streamlining and how are we thinking about making it a little bit more consistent across, because there's some departments that do it well, but I'm just curious if it all falls under DoIT, like how do you envision helping to support that?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, this is where we have a dynamic relationship with a lot of different clients. So in the case of business intelligence software, so like the tools that run our dashboards and whatnot, we have been migrating from Tableau to Power BI this past year. That's partially what brought the disruption in the OPAD dashboards. We, in this operating model that we have, a lot of times what we end up doing is thinking our job is to bring the tools, to bring the training and the expertise. Sometimes we can facilitate the data because we have the data, but often we work with departments to make sure that they have the capacity to be able to build their own dashboards and their own tools. Obviously, I think like in the case of OPAD, partially there's like a lot of transition in terms of staff, and that meant that the people that were managing some of the dashboards were transitioning. So I don't want to speak for them, but we again, what we are working on, and we've made investments in this, is to try to just keep looking at my team because they're the ones that do it.
Yeah, looking at your team.
Yeah.
You're rolling deep here.
Yeah. They're awesome people. But we've been trying to make it easier, like create the training, creating the resources so that when this department say, hey, we need help.
Yeah. So the reason why I ask is because as the objective for today's hearing is to really think about how we codify and stabilize and, give you all the tools and the resources and the respect that you deserve to be a department, right? And so I'm just thinking of things that I've seen that I think that are really good examples of what it would look like if DoIT was the one that was doing it literally, right? So I think I just want to uplift that and name that as something that really stands out to me, because despite whatever transitions are happening in different departments, there's a level of consistency and quality that is coming out. So I don't have a lot of questions. I'm already all on board. Obviously, I'm the sponsor, so co-sponsor of it. So I'm here and grateful for the opportunity to ask questions, and thank you for your work.
Thank you, Councilor Mejia. Councilor Braden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of the issues that we've come across recently, just with problem properties and addresses, and it seems like an inability for the assessing department to coordinate with inspectional services or the code enforcement, so that we can't issue a lien on a property because we don't have accurate. ISD doesn't have accurate address parcels, and yet assessing department seems to have all the relevant information to be able to send a bill out. So I'm not an expert in this field at all. So I think that's part of in terms of the enforcement and holding property owners accountable. It's really important that we have accurate information that's actionable. So can you speak to that and how, again, it's this cross-enterprise coordination and communication that's sort of critical to the success of your operation. So can you speak to those issues a little?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I think that for us, we think about there's data and information underpin the operation of everything at the city, and I think that before digital tools, we just ended up taking longer time, or we just lost the opportunity to verify and make sure that things were correct. So we have been working over the past, well, few months, because we got the investment from, in this budget season. Just again, some shout out to some of my teammates, Anna Stoneman and Charlie Shields, and the folks in the analytics team have been doing some reconstructive surgery, if you will, of kind of like the core data tools that we use to track addresses, information about properties, information about our right-of-way. And we have a long way to go, but just this past week, hopefully they're not upset if I share this. But you know, like we went live this past week in the new address management system, which is a GIS native system. It requires coordination between people at BPD, ISD, so we'll take a note around the ownership information and around some of the pieces in assessing. Again, it's part of a broader process, but we made substantial progress in changing some of the core components of infrastructure. And to your point, if you know, I think that the public sometimes wonder, don't these people talk to each other? Like, why don't you have information from one system in the other system? And the reality is that for us to be able to do that, you have to get all the parts right. You have to have the right processes, the training for the users that you need to move all this stuff. And because we're very lucky, we also need the right technology, and we have very talented people that are building the right pieces of technology. The last piece is just, the previous address management system that Boston had was kind of the state of the art around 2012. Like, it was amazing, but it was before the advent of a lot of new technology. So a lot of times we're going in and changing things that were good, but need replacement. They need to be updated. So we're kind of, that's what we're working through, is replacing these systems so that we can get more value out of them.
Mm-hmm. And what's the difference between the City of Boston street address management system and the state's master address unique ID? Like, they have a unique ID for each. Is there? Are we in coordination with that? Or do we complement that? Are we able to talk to that system?
I think that I can give just a very preliminary answer. We can get the experts. We do share a lot of our information back with the state around like our streets, our addresses. But so we, in a lot of cases, we are the ones that generate new addresses when there's a new construction project, when there's subdivision or whatnot. So I believe that we're the originators of that, and then I think that we share it back to the state. But that's partially what we would hope to do better in the future, is like, how do we share and consume data from the state and from other third parties around address and structures a little bit better.
Mm, that's good. And then the GIS system, I think in the past a lot of that, the bulk of that work was done perhaps in the BPDA or the BRA way back when. And then we had GIS, different departments in the city had their own GIS programs. Are we able to unify all of that? And now that the BPDA is a city department, are we able to sort of unify it and maybe get rid of some of the redundancy in the system and have it be more comprehensive across the board?
Yeah, that's a great point. We're happy to engage with our partners at the new city planning department. We've had a great productive relationship, and in the past, for instance, even their GIS environment was hosted in our servers. Like, we provisioned the infrastructure to enable them. I think that there might be some opportunities to realign resources, but we have a lot of admiration for the GIS team and planning department. And what we have been doing in the recent past is building some capacity around some enterprise management. So we negotiate the enterprise agreement citywide, which included BPDA. Mm-hmm. We provision some of the core infrastructure, but I think that there's opportunities for us to keep the dialogue and seeing how can we, again, in some sense, how do we raise the floor so that other people get to benefit a little bit from those investments across the board.
Yeah,
yeah.
Very powerful software. We should be able to use it, get the best of it. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Burden. I do want to acknowledge the fact that we've been joined, there was going to be a second advocate panel, but I think we'll go ahead and introduce them in the event that my colleagues have questions now. I do have questions for you, so just don't, wait a second, but I do want to acknowledge them because some of them have a hard stop in 30 minutes, so I wanted to open up the floor to folks, and I apologize, I should have done this before, but didn't know about the hard stop until now. We have Heidi Norman, who's the CIO from the Department of Innovation and Performance from Pittsburgh. Denise Lynn Rydell, I apologize if I said your name wrong, Chief Innovation Officer from DoIT in the city of South Bend, and Patrick McCormick, who's the CIO of the city of Cambridge from the Information Technology Department. I don't have any questions for them quite yet, so I'm going to focus in on DoIT here in Boston. Again, just thank you again for your work on everything. I know that you are doing an assessment of all city departments and their IT systems, programs, and software, and understand that that is a huge lift. I think in one of the slides, I think it's the second one, you talk about the impact on constituents that emerges from these operational challenges. And I've said it many, many times, we are of service to our customers who are the constituents, and we hear it every single day. There's words inconsistent, inaccessible, redundant, confusing, inefficient, all of that, and these are things that we hear every day from our residents. And so I'm so grateful that there's work being done to rectify that. For me, I'm focused on this ordinance and making sure it has everything that you need to do everything that you outlined, right? You had talked about procurement, you talked about overseeing tech planning and budgetary functions, and providing support tech-related workforce and planning efforts. Is there anything here, because this presumably will go to a working session, is there anything now that we should be looking into to integrate into this? Do you have any feedback on the language now? If not, that's okay, there will be a working session, but I just wanted to ask while you all are here in front of us.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, no, we'd appreciate having the working session so that we can dig into the talks. Again, we're grateful for the council for bringing this forward, but I think no immediate reactions. Again, we've been thinking on our end about in conversations with Mayor Wu and with her team, what are the pieces that would be complements to do on the executive side? And as you mentioned, I think that there's an understanding that there's opportunities to do these things. So, but I think that we can dig into the text in a working session if that's okay.
Of course, that's perfectly fine with me. In the April hearing, you had talked about mirroring the 2016 EOTS, Executive Office of Technology Service and Security. Is there anything that we should be looking for in that? Do you plan to provide any feedback based on the state level piece of legislation?
Yeah, I think that for the working session, we can bring a little bit some research that we've done about different models. The state went with a very centralized model. And again, I think that they're responding to some similar ideas. I think that right now our thought would be there's less of a drive for centralization and more around coordination. But yeah, I think that, again, we looked at federal legislation as well, the enabling of the CIO Council at the federal level. We looked at the state, at the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and what they did. And again, I think that this is just a piece of what I think would be seen as best practice of just making sure that it is clear around authorities, like that you're not, in a moment of crisis, that you're not stepping over each other about trying to figure out who has the authority to do what, but also that you're proactive. There's a lot of value to be had even outside of an emergency setting where we can start building some of these things. And I think, again, the Commonwealth just won a big award for best state in terms of digital experiences. So if nothing else, they seem to be reaping the rewards of their investment. So.
Awesome. And one totally separate question. You had talked about in the last hearing, and while I have you here, you're completing an assessment report with the recommendations to modernize our infrastructure. How's that going?
So the assessment is complete, and I think that what we can work on our end is double check to see when we can release the final version of the assessment. If nothing else, like if it's ready, we could even think about trying to bring it to the working session. And yeah, so the bulk of the work is complete. I think that we're just working on making sure that the report and the content was, we looked at financial management, around staffing, around service management. So even some of the slides that we showed today, like in the past, we didn't have an inventory of how many programs or services we delivered, how many teams did we have. That's some of the data that we shared at the tail end was all coming from the assessment.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's it for me. I do want to provide the opportunity for anybody on the call, unless Chair, you had an idea of who wants to go first. If anybody had any opening remarks or testimony, introductory testimony, before we get into questions. Chair, did you have anybody that wanted to go first?
I don't think anyone said they wanted to go first, so I'll leave it up to them.
Okay. Did anybody on Zoom have any testimony that they'd like to provide before I pass it to my colleagues for any of their questions for you folks? Seeing and hearing none, unless... oh, go ahead. I apologize.
This is Pat McCormick. I'll be super brief and mostly, I think, highlight some of the things that have already been said. And thank you, counselors and everyone, for including me here. I think this is really important. It's great that Boston is tackling this. Needless to say, it's a common challenge, as I think others will say, in both the public and private sector, trying to achieve that balance between centralization, decentralization, and shared IT infrastructure and applications. I also just want to say, you know, being a neighbor, we really admire what's going on in Boston. Santiago is very generous with his time. We ran into each other at MIT earlier this month, and we were surrounded by much more exciting technology leaders globally and topics, but you know, we took some time to compare notes on municipal IT, and that's super valuable, and he and his team are very collaborative, so we really value that. So I guess I'll just say a few things. Cambridge, we're a much smaller scale, so some of these things are a little easier. I've been with the city about 4.5 years, and we did have a process preceding me to get better governance around IT. I was really happy to find that when I arrived, and we've made some improvements. I think, as we've heard from Santi and his team, whatever you do for processes, and that's really important, it is also about trust and transparency in order to have that connection between the business owners, stakeholders, and IT. I'll also just mention, we talked about the legislation at the state level and EOTS. I spent nearly 3 years from the day one of that new agency helping to set that up. My role was around the IT investments across all the executive agencies. And so that was an effort to do something similar here, very much following the legislation, as was already mentioned. And the basic theme is, and I think this is generally best practice, is sharing infrastructure, keeping applications as close as possible to the businesses involved. Having said that, some applications are enterprise and really need to scale in a different way. And some applications are more catered to particular business needs. However, that governance and collaboration around those principles of investment, from IT to policy priorities for the organization, to good investment principles like knowing that there's a sound business case and that the outcomes are clear and the metrics have been determined, and that even if it is a important priority, a policy priority, even if it has sound IT elements, that you need that sort of IT, that investment kind of business case to make sure it succeeds. We all know IT can have a poor success rate without all the elements. And just to break down, and again, I think I'm mostly highlighting what's already been said, on the IT alignment, very much about, even if it's something only in certain parts of the enterprise, that the interoperability and standards are kept in mind, sustainability and scalability are kept in mind, and as was mentioned, cybersecurity. And I think that's an ongoing effort with our, here in Cambridge, we have something called eGov for e-governance, and we meet every 2 weeks. There's a cyclical process associated with our budget, but we also take requests across the entire enterprise at any time for proposed IT investments. And we have an online form, and that really guides our colleagues into focusing on what is the business need, what is the solution, and try not to be too technology driven so that we can respond. And we need to be responsive in order to maintain that trust. We need to be transparent in order to maintain that trust, and that's an ongoing, constant effort. So those are just a few points that I thought were worth highlighting given what's been said already. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Do we have Heidi on from Pittsburgh at all to give any testimony?
Yes, hi, good afternoon. My name is Heidi Norman. I am the CIO for the City of Pittsburgh and Director of the Department of Innovation and Performance. I want to say we have long admired Boston's data program, and I'm happy to give testimony today. I think I've been listening to the entire conversation, and I think you guys are on a really good trajectory. You seem to recognize a lot of the sort of standard issues that we experience in government, and Pittsburgh has been very proactive in creating really good data governance, utilizing leaders across a number of our different departments and public safety bureaus to help guide us on the best ways to provide oversight in terms of our open data and transparency, as well as issues such as data privacy, creating data dictionary for the government, and of course moving into exciting new areas like AI. And I think the items that Boston is talking about are directly in line with all of those. And I'm here to encourage you to keep going and to approve the ordinance that you have before you. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much for taking the time to be here all the way from Pittsburgh. Do we have Denise on from South Bend?
Hi, everyone. My name is Denise Lynn Riedel. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer for the City of South Bend, Indiana, and head of the city's Department of Innovation and Technology. I just want to agree with most of the things that were said today by Santi and his team. What we found in South Bend is that central governance for data and IT and procurement for technology has really been the origins of a lot of cost savings, efficiency, project sourcing, and new service delivery. And so it's given us the power to identify areas of vulnerability, just like what Santi said with our growing cybersecurity portfolio. It's also been able, we've been able to identify new areas of value, parts of the city or different departments and teams that are AI ready or not, right? So there are a lot of opportunities and threats on the horizon, I feel like, for local government that really make this type of governance essential for proper operations. And so I really just commend the City of Boston for considering this. Santi built a great governance structure in South Bend, which I've inherited and have taken advantage of. And so I see that happening in Boston. And, I think for especially our small city, it's worked out very well. And I just wish you guys the best of luck on your digital transformation journey.
Thank you so much, Denise. I had no idea, Santi. Wow. Okay, that's great to know. City of South Bend, home of the Fighting Irish and Santi Garces. And Mayor Pete, who I like. Okay, I'll pass it over to lead sponsor, Councilor Worrell.
Thank you, everyone, for your testimony. If you had a chance to review the ordinance, I would like to see if you guys had any feedback on any recommendations, any suggestions on, language we can add, either based on your experience in your current roles, seeing that we're going to be going into working session to make sure that we meet the moment and make sure that we give our DoIT team all the tools necessary to meet this moment.
Hi, this is Heidi Norman. I was not given a copy of the ordinance to review.
Okay. So I'll just go down like a list of responsibilities just rather quickly. So establish procurement policies and guidelines relating to both software and hardware, including but not limited to CRMs, governmental websites, server equipment, database management tools, digital subscriptions and account management, digital infrastructure assets. Number 2, establish data collection, storage, and access protocols. Number 3, maintain, modernize, and secure cities' technology infrastructure. 4, design, develop, and unify cities' web presence. And 5, develop, implement, and maintain in consultation with the various department chiefs and directors interbase systems for the provisions of services. And then 6, coordinate with other agencies and quasi-independent agencies to implement said policies to the extent necessary. I know I read that rather quickly, but wanted to see if you guys wanted to respond. If there's anything that I didn't say that should be included, or anything that you could just say off the top of your head on what the duties of your current role is in your codified city is.
I'm not sure if I heard anything on procurement in terms of reviews of any applications or data sets that might be purchased. I think it is important, if that's not included, it is important that those folks who have expertise in these areas are looking to make sure that all applications and any kind of IT that is acquired by the city is meeting guidelines, particularly as it relates to compliance issues in criminal justice and finance and keeping people's data safe. So that is something that you might want to be discussing if that isn't on the table already. Everything else that I heard sounds really good. I would say that there are opportunities that Pittsburgh has found to be enormously beneficial when talking about not only whether we should procure a major piece of software for the city, but what the business case for it is and how we're financing it. And we use a governance committee made up of people from, again, across the city to be able to discuss those things. And I think it has gone a long way to helping everyone working together to determine how we can best steward the precious tax dollars that we have to spend on these types of systems, and to be more open and transparent, not only within the city, but also with the public. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would, sorry, I was going to just echo those comments. I think, and I don't know that it needs to be codified, but certainly in Cambridge, we rely on essentially an investment advisory board for those capital investments, and also understanding the impact on operational budgets. Aside from that group that meets regularly to review investments and look at requests, we really rely on our finance department and our purchasing department, who in turn will say, hey, have you checked with IT on this? And they might already have some tools that are available, for example. What's the problem that you're trying to solve versus you want this software? As much as you can bake in some of that process, I think it's helpful and important. And just to give one other example, something that came up here about 3 years ago in working in our annual budget cycle, we found that that tools were being used which departments saw as free because they didn't cost anything, and they did violate terms of privacy and data because, of course, as we know, free isn't really free in IT. So we worked with our finance colleagues, and in our annual budget book, there's actually guidance that says even if you don't need money, either because you have it in your budget or because it doesn't cost anything, you still need IT to be in the loop to look at this. So, for what it's worth, I think that's iterative in terms of building something that's mature, but I think those elements are important. Thanks.
I'd love to concur with everything Patrick just said about $0 items as well. That's actually a weakness in our current governance structure and process, but whether it's a $0 pilot or it's a grant-funded piece of technology, for instance, which does happen, IT for security purposes and also for just strategic planning purposes really should be an advisor at the table and should be involved in that work. And so making sure that that is covered is important.
Thank you. I have no further questions for the second panel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilor Worrell. Councilor Braden, do you have any questions for the second panel?
I'm curious from our colleagues from other municipalities in terms of information technology in the space of facilities management and capital planning. I'm just wondering, this is maybe a slightly tangential question, but since I have you here, do you have a system? I know DC has a system whereby they track capital investment projects. A capital plan rolls out over a 5-year period, and they know a start to finish sort of tracking system on a digital public-facing data dashboard. Do you folks do anything like that? I know it depends on the size of the city, of course, but do you do anything like that?
Well, I can jump in first, Councillor, and we do. In Cambridge, there are separate parallel tracks for major capital investments in building and construction and in IT. So those are both tracked as part of the overall capital investment planning. And, I think, yes, to your point, we do have a dashboard. We're able to see, many of these projects in IT span multiple years. What's the initial investment until it turns into an operational cost?
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all I had.
Thank you so much, Councillor Brereton. I don't have any additional questions. I just am really grateful that folks from around the country, even across the river from Cambridge, came to provide their expertise and their comments. It sounds like Councillor Worrell has one more question, and then we'll go to him, and then we'll wrap.
Yeah. A little off topic, but just curious, and it's a question for everyone. How is, all cities leveraging AI technology to improve efficiency and enhance public service? I guess we can start right here at home and then go to our guests.
Yes, so again, this is an area where we are excited. We think that Boston has been leading some of this work, particularly being diligent and thoughtful also about how are we doing this in a responsible way. So we have actually one of our first public use cases around the council. So a few months ago, we had there's a request from Councillor Fernandez Henderson around improving the accessibility of the roll call and like how the voting record of the council. We created a version of that website that has 20-word summaries that are automatically generated through a large language model. It serves two purposes. One, it makes it a little bit easier for people to understand what the vote is. Like, it's a little bit more accessible. But the other thing is also it enabled us to create a better visual experience in the actual design of the web interface, because we could put a little summary so you could see kind of what the council is voting on before you click on the actual results of the vote. We have been doing a lot of work on engaging with our employees to try to understand where are their concerns, what are their areas of interesting opportunities. And again, we have a number we have a number of projects and things that we'll be sharing that I think that are exciting, that are helpful, and then again, a review of our guidelines that we put out in May of 2023 on the use of generative AI. But again, another quick example of ways in which we've been using AI in partnership with ISD and the rodent control plan. We've also been working on building a model in partnership with some students and some researchers at MIT that increase the efficiency of the efficacy of our rodent control crew. So without the model, our inspectors were only finding 30% of evidence of there being rodents when they were dispatched. And with the filters that we are able to put together with the models, with these like machine learning models, we get to up to 70% of infestations found. So, which is, again, making sure that the limited resources that we have to be able to do rodent control are more effective. And so there's a lot of exciting work. We also follow the work that some of our colleagues across the country and across the world are doing, and we learn a lot from each other.
Thank you. Heidi Denise Patrick. Patrick, you're on the screen, so you could go ahead.
I think Denise was about to jump in.
Okay.
In terms of artificial intelligence, the city of South Bend, we use AI for a lot of infrastructure assessments in our city. Neighborhood infrastructure is a high priority, and so we use it to very quickly assess and understand the quality of our streets and sidewalks. Like any technology, AI should be put to use for the city's biggest priorities, for residents' biggest priorities, the mayor's biggest priorities. So that's very much the way we see it in South Bend. So our biggest priorities happen to be neighborhood infrastructure, public safety, and civic engagement as we continue to plan and expand as a city. And so some other use cases for AI that have been successful in South Bend: we've been using generative AI to do quick document-based translation across city departments. This is another reason why a great hub and spoke IT structure is so effective, is when you're deploying new technology that can have transformational results for residents, or you're governing technology that can help residents. You're able to deploy that quickly and responsibly because you have different stewards and contacts across departments, and they're used to working with you. So we've been able to do that effectively. We're also, like many cities, using chatbots to streamline the way our employees are interacting with onerous and dense benefits information about financial policies, information about different internal IT resources and policies. And so we actually have a chatbot that knows a lot about our procurement, knows a lot about IT, knows a lot about data stewardship at the city, and that's been a great cheat sheet for people who don't want to wade through lots of dense PDFs on the internet. So that's just some of the ways we're using AI in South Bend, beyond experimenting with Copilot and sort of the day-to-day operational efficiencies, which honestly, we're seeing some of the biggest benefits there. Just, you don't have to think big when it comes to AI, you can think small. And we're seeing a lot of the value of AI is around training and empowering our employees to use it a little bit in their everyday lives, whether that's for summarizing a meeting very quickly or generating some new ideas or synthesizing something for a resident or transcribing something. It's an enormously wonderful tool just for individual productivity.
Counselor, I'll just add that I think in Cambridge, we're at the moment a bit more of a follower than a leader. This was one of the topics that I was eager to talk to Santi about earlier this month. So our use cases, we're still building out our use cases and tools. We've been doing some work with our open data layers, given that there are less concerns about that data that it already being public, and doing some internal pilots within IT, and then working with our departments at similar use cases to what Denise had also described and what I'd spoken with Santi about. But we're going pretty cautiously and looking to see where we can target its use best with it while avoiding some of the risks that are raised.
Thank you. No further questions, Chair.
Thank you all again so much for your time, and thank you for your work and all that you do. I'm just going to reiterate again, come budget time, DoIT needs more resources. I'll say it, and just that your work is very important. So seeing that we have no one signed up for public testimony, I will make actually a friendly ask to provide us any red lines that you have for the ordinance ahead of the working session, so we can review and make sure that we have all of the information we need and inform ourselves ahead of the working session. So if that could happen before. Okay, thank you. You just nodded yes for the record. All right, great. This hearing on docket 1199 is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.